everybody, and welcome back to my Let's Play. Last we left off, we were at the catacombs, so we're picking up right where we left off, and yeah. My videos are never complete unless my controller is acting up, so there you go. Got that out of the way. Alright, so it's interesting that in this version of the game, they actually included an item chest, and whereas in the director's cut they only had the typewriter. So that's kind of intriguing to me. Alright, so let me see. Now, if I remember correctly, there's really not much we can do with this hexagonal hole. And unless Jill has a hexagonal member, she needs to get the crank, another crank. So we're gonna go this way. So we're moving along slowly but surely. I guess if I could describe the approach that I've taken in this game so far, at least in this Let's Play, it's been very kind of cautious, you know, very sort of just kind of planning everything out as best as I can and just making sure that I don't die. So that's great, the acid shells. I honestly thought that the boulder was gonna come down, so that's kind of surprising. I don't know why. I don't know what triggers that particular boulder, but I guess if it does get triggered, I didn't do it yet, so we'll see. Alright, so this area is sort of newish to the remake compared to the original version of the game, so this is kind of interesting here. So let me see what we have here. The elevator's power source. There's a round lid. Open it. Okay, can't really use this yet because this part is incomplete. The shaft. Yeah. Insert phallic joke here. But I don't know. I was just kind of like, the other day I was walking. I like to take a walk during my lunch break just to, you know, get some fresh air and also just to kind of clear my head for the rest of the day. That's just a habit that I have. And there was, so I walked by a big sort of business district, so there's a lot of stores, that sort of thing. So you have a lot of people kind of handing out things like you know, it's usually like some kind of not really a pamphlet, but like some kind of advertisement. A flyer, if you will. So I happened to have a lot of things in my hand at the time because I was carrying lunch for somebody. I was kind of walking back for my lunch, you know, from picking up lunch at a restaurant, fast food restaurant. And I was kind of also dealing with my headphones. I like to kind of walk with my headphones on. So this person was looking at me like I was the person that was handing out things, and I get it. I get it. It's part of his job. He's supposed to hand out, you know, little flyers here and there, that sort of thing. But, you know, don't give me a dirty look if I literally can't. It's not even a question of I won't pick it up. It's just I can't pick it up. I don't have enough hands. Like, I'm not fucking Goro here. Like, for God's sake, please have some mercy. So I don't know, he just kind of gave me attitude like I was supposed to sprout a third arm to get whatever stupid advertisement he was supposed to give to me. So that was that experience, and that's that. So, speaking of New York is always just kind of like, New York is one of those places where it's just like, people, at least I've had the experience in talking to people who have never been to New York, that they're just kind of like, you know, they have the standard, I guess they think that everybody lives by Times Square or everybody lives by the Empire State Building. And I'm just like, no, not really. That's not the case, to be honest. Like the concept of 5 boroughs and the fact that people in one borough may not necessarily go to the other boroughs at least that often.
Jill.
Is that voice Enrico's?
Yeah?
You're alive!
Stop! Are you with anybody, Jill?
No, but why?
The stars are finished. Someone is a traitor. Umbrella set us up.
Enrico! Traitor? Who?
Okay, first of all, my instinct would, if I was in Jill's shoes and somebody just shot the guy that I was talking to, my first instinct at least, would not be to just check on him. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's the right thing to do, but my instinct would be to try to find some cover. It doesn't really look like there's much here, but at least try to, and try to return fire. I don't know, I'd be pretty scared if somebody just shot the guy that I was talking to. Whoa. Okay. Hi, Hunter. Nice. Oh, God. Okay. Ah! No way. Okay. That was pretty fortunate. And I do actually like that in this version of the game, they left the identity of that shooter pretty ambiguous. In the director's cut, it's pretty clear that it's not Barry, because Barry's literally standing right next to you, so it's kind of impossible for him to shoot whoever it is. Spoilers. But here you have no idea who the assailant is. Alright, but at least now that I have the hexagonal crank, I can go. So going back to this whole New York thing, and if anybody has never been here and has this concept, let me just kind of put that to the side. I happen to be from one of the outer boroughs, the Bronx, and I mean, it's not really that rare for me to go to Manhattan. It's really not that inconvenient to take public transportation, but I just don't go a lot. I used to go there every day because I had school in Manhattan, but now I work in the Bronx. So I live in the Bronx and I work in the Bronx, so it's just kind of like, it's just not really convenient for me to go after work because I get out of work kind of late, that sort of thing, late-ish. So it's just one of those things. And there's this kind of, I don't know if it's still around, maybe I'm kind of old-fashioned, but it's kind of not the most common thing for people to go from one outer borough to the other, just because of the way the public transportation system is set up. Like, basically, most of the pretty much all the trains that I could think of, the subway, in the subway system, they go from one outer borough to Manhattan to another outer borough, if they go even that far. So let's say, I'm from the Bronx, let's say I want to go to Brooklyn. A ride that would take, like, if for example you have a car, it would take you about 20-30 minutes to get to wherever you need to go to in Brooklyn. But if you were to take public transportation, then it would take you close to 2 hours to get from wherever you are in the Bronx to Brooklyn. Which is kind of strange, isn't it? Because I've always kind of thought it would make some sense to have some trains going, not many, but at least some trains that go directly from outer borough to outer borough. I don't know, I always found that kind of weird to me. Like, it's still kind of the case, even though it's like the 21st century, which is absolutely insane. So let me just, alright, so let's get back to the game a little bit. Huge boulder blocks the way. The first one did move, so what's gonna happen with this one? Oh, this one actually did get triggered. Okay, sweet. See, this is kind of interesting. This is definitely one way to prevent people from finding out the secrets of whatever's going on here. Alright, shotgun shots. That can't be it. That's it? Okay, it wasn't even like it was guarding anything like essential to beat the game, but that's quite alright. That's alright. Alright. So let's see what we have in here. And if my instincts are correct, there's gonna be a boss battle in here. Oh, yeah, there you go. Look at that. An even bigger spider for your enjoyment. There you go. Oh god. Oh god. Okay. And it's interesting here because in this version of the game, there's actually a second spider that comes out. You'll see it in a moment. So luckily this is kind of a big area. You can just sort of run around him or her. I like to think it's a her. I always like to think it's a female. There's the other one. I don't think it's as big as this massive spider. It's just kind of... Oh, his ass came off. Her ass came off. I'm sure there's a technical, like a scientific term for a spider's booty. But the spider does have a booty. Hello, booty. I like when they like shake it too. It's really funny. It's really funny to look at. Okay. So I'm going to ignore this one. I don't think it's essential to fight it. So let me just go ahead. Just going to see. Hopefully I don't get... Oh, God. Hopefully I don't get poisoned while I'm doing all this. Just going to get all these webs out of the way. And we're good. We can keep going, which is great. So, as I'm doing these Let's Plays, I don't know, I'm kind of finding, like I said, shout out to everybody who's on Reddit, by the way. I should do a shout out video, by the way. I really should. There's a lot of really cool people that I've met, that I'm interacting with, which is really, really nice. And I'm kind of learning little tidbit, like little tips here and there that help make this whole Let's Play experience more fun, more fulfilling too. You know what I mean? Like, because I mean, don't get me wrong, for as long as I've done this, and I've been doing this for about a year now, it's a pretty fulfilling experience, I have to say. I really enjoy it. Like, if I could compare, there's always pros and cons to everything, and comparing Twitch and YouTube, there's pros and cons to each experience. Like, for example, with Twitch, you can interact with people then and there, and I like that about Twitch, and I will, you know, I'll forever kind of remember that as kind of a big pro. But YouTube, I don't know, I just like that it's kind of, it sounds really cheesy, but it's kind of like a legacy, and I really like that a lot. I really enjoy that. Like, it's just kind of like a journal, if you will, of just my experience with a game. You know, it sounds really, really cheesy, but that's how it is. And this is where I need to have this. And I love how the boulder is only triggered when you move that rotating area a certain way. It's kind of weird. I just don't understand that. Okay, I can understand that all these boulders that are placed in this area are there to prevent people outside of Umbrella from finding their secrets. But what about somebody who really needs to get to the lab? I suppose there's another way for them to get to the lab, a lot easier, I guess. But I don't know. It's kind of interesting, is it not? So one thing that I'm noticing about this game, or one thing that I'm actually curious about, is I don't know if this is correct, but the Wesker report, the second Wesker report, the first Wesker report, if I remember correctly, was kind of part of a version of Code Veronica, something like that. And it was pretty self-explanatory. Wesker report was Wesker giving his report about certain events that have happened. And the first one, which was released with Code Veronica, gives you kind of the rundown of everything that's happened from the first game all the way up to the third game, and including Code Veronica, which is kind of cool, which is actually pretty interesting. But then they had a second Wesker report, which was ironically the report that came out before the second Wesker report. It was more like Wesker before everything happened, kind of before all this went down. And I'm just kind of wondering if it came out with this version of the game, the HD remake. I really would kind of like it, because they talk about a lot of history of like viruses, and I think I mentioned this before in one of my previous Let's Play videos, where it's every time somebody talks about biological weapons, they always talk about Ebola, the Ebola virus. It's not a biological weapon yet, but people people that are into bioterrorism, I suppose, are just kind of like, oh man, I really wish we could weaponize Ebola, which is crazy. And now that I'm actually studying public health. That's what I'm doing now in terms of schooling. And it's just kind of interesting learning about what Ebola is, what its impact is, how it works, and that sort of thing. So I found that that's always pretty fascinating. So this is the shaft that I need. There was a piece that was missing, so I need to look. So the idea is that these symbols here give me the solution to the puzzle. So it's basically 4, 2, 3, and 1. So I need to remember that sequence when I get back to where I picked up the original piece. So there's nothing further in this room. I'm actually having trouble finding the door out of this. Oh, there we go. Whoops, that's a bit of an embarrassment, but hey, that's quite all right. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make my way back. It's just a few doors that I need to go through to get to it. But let me just check out something over here. A first aid box. I don't really know what these first aid boxes are. Are they just like multiple first aid sprays in there? That's what I think. I've never used them, so I'm really honestly suspecting that that's the case. All right. So like I said before, the director's cut version of this area, the catacombs, I'm sure there's another name for them, for this area. Courtyard, Courtyard B1. The director's cut is a lot more straightforward. There's a lot less you have to do. There's a lot less time you spend in here. And I always say catacombs, and I always like to use that word because it gives me an excuse to think of Symphony of the Night. I think there's an area in Symphony of the Night that's called the catacombs. And I don't know, I really enjoy that game. And that was one of those games that I kind of regret not playing as a kid. I just started playing it recently. The irony of it is that before playing Symphony of the Night, I played Super Metroid. I played a tiny bit of that, and prior to playing that, I'd never played any game that was like it. So I played Super Metroid and I liked it, but I kept getting lost and I kept kind of losing track of where I was in the world. And so I was just kind of like, I have no idea where I need to go, because it's quite non-linear. If you've never played it, it's good to know that it's quite non-linear, which is good. It's kind of refreshing. But then somebody told me to, check out Symphony of the Night. It's one of the best PlayStation 1 games out there. And so I said, okay, you know what, fine. So going into it, I already knew it was one of those quote Metroidvania games, and I said, okay, you know what, let me kind of have an open mind with it. Like I said, prior to playing those games, now that I think of it, looking back, I played some pretty linear games. You have to get from point A to point B. There might be some different ways to go about doing that, but I know that that's what I need to do. So I went into Castlevania Symphony of the Night knowing that the game was a Metroidvania game, and I was able to beat it. And I said, okay, well, now that I beat that, let me go back to Super Metroid and check it out. Super Metroid being the first Metroid game that I'd ever played. So I said, okay, now I know what to expect. Now I have a better idea of what's going on with this game and what to expect. So finally I went back to it with the proper mindset, and I said, okay, let me do it. And I was able to beat it. Finally. But like I said, it's one of those things where it's just like, it was a game obviously I'd never played in my childhood, and I wish I did, because then I'd have the experience. I'd be more of a veteran, if you will. Honestly, in my childhood, I didn't really play many games, and I should have, like I said. So finally, the elevator will be operational, but let's recall the series of numbers that I need to press. Okay, so that was correct. So the elevator's up. Alright, we're moving along. We can finally explore a little more of the courtyard area. So let's flick the switch.
Jill!
Barry? Thank God you're safe.
You too, Jill. A noise I heard brought me down here, but I didn't expect to find a place like this. Have any idea as to what might be at the bottom?
There's only one way to find out.
What the hell is that sound? It could be a person. Jill, go check it out.
Right.
We had enough surprises for one day. I'll stay here and secure our escape route in case something happens.
Okay.
Yeah, leave the girl with the little guns to explore the area. The guy with the big gun is gonna stay behind. Okay, sure, that seems legit. Alright. So, I'm gonna end it here, but I'll be back in the next video. Later.